All right, in today's video, we're going to discuss cooperatives. Now, I did a previous video discussing condominium regimes. I'm going to put a link right up here in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. At some point, you do need to check that out because cooperatives and condos, they look very similar from the outside. However, there are some substantial distinct differences that you must know for your real estate licensing exam. All right, so let's start with those differences and those distinctions. And the first one is a condo. If you own a condo, you actually have what's called fee simple title or fee simple absolute ownership. That means that if this is a condominium regime and you own unit number 1, you actually have a single deed. You have fee simple absolute title to unit number 1, and then you have tenants in common ownership with the other condominium owners in the regime, of the common areas. All right, so you have an individual ownership of your unit and then a shared ownership with everybody else of the rest of the regime. A cooperative is not like that. A cooperative, if you own or live in a cooperative, that means you own shares of a corporation. Not unlike owning shares of Microsoft or Apple. All right? The difference is the corporation owns the real property and then you own shares of that corporation. All right? Now, understand a cooperative can be structured in a way that the legal entity that owns the real property can be a corporation, it can be a trust, it can be a nonprofit. There are several different entity types, but the important thing is to know that legal entity owns the totality of the real property, and then you would only own shares or interest in that entity. All right, so let's break this down so you understand how this works. So let's say that unit number 1 is available. That means the shareholder for unit number 1 is selling their shares. And let's say you want to buy those shares. So what happens is the board of director or the association director, however it's structured, all the other shareholders on that board, they're going to approve or disapprove the sale of those shares. And if they approve the sale, then the shares are transferred to the new owner, and the new owner of the shares is going to sign what's called a proprietary lease. That is a key real estate term that you must know for the real estate licensing exam, proprietary lease. Now, a proprietary lease is a lot like a normal lease agreement in that it outlines the obligations, duties, and responsibilities of not only the occupant, but also the cooperative itself, who does what and when. So proprietary lease, understand for your real estate licensing exam, anytime you see that term, proprietary lease, you know that it's solely regarding a cooperative. All right, so remember, unit number 1 holds the shares. They own the shares, and they sign that proprietary lease. Now, there are some other things that you need to know about cooperatives that are very important. Number 1, as we talked about, the corporation or the legal entity owns the totality of the real property, so therefore they can actually go out and get mortgages. So if there's a mortgage to finance this, it's going to be the legal entity that owns it, not the individual shareholders. Number 2 is this requires maintenance. The roof at some point is going to need to be replaced, and the pool is going to need service, and those type of things. So there's going to be an annual budget that is going to be assessed on each one of the shareholders. So let's say because of capital improvements that need to be done and routine maintenance, the board of directors determined that they need $50,000 this year for maintenance, etc. Well, they're going to assess each one of the unit shareholders, so a proration or a pro rata of the $50,000, and it's based on square foot of each individual unit. So if unit 4 has a higher amount of square footage than unit 1, then unit 4, that shareholder is going to pay a larger portion of that $50,000. Very similar to how they operate in condominium regimes. And the last thing is And we're not going to get into details here, but it is something you may want to know, that if you're a shareholder and you live in one of these units and you have the proprietary lease, you may be eligible to write certain expenses off, like if there is a mortgage that the corporation has, or maintenance costs or taxes, those type of things. There is a mechanism for deducting those items. We're not going to get into the details because you don't need to know the details for the test, but be aware that that is an option as well.